I think it's going to be a watershed event. I mean, I think when you hear from the godfather of AI, Jensen, he's going to lay out what demand looks like for Blackwell. And ultimately, I mean, right now, we believe 15-to-1 demand to supply, in terms of what we see for Blackwell. It's about not just things like in terms of Rubin and others, physical AI, autonomous robotics. And I hear everything that Josh is saying, but in my opinion, we are in year 3 of an 8 to 10 year build out for the AI revolution. And that's why it's so front and center what we're going to hear from the godfather of AI, Jensen, in San Jose.
All right, so Nvidia shares have now pulled back notably, not as much as other mega cap technology stocks have, but a lot of it was driven by kind of the recent quarterly reports that have come out. The fundamentals are very much intact. Nobody's going to dispute that. But the question is relative to expectations, and that's where Nvidia ran into some problems with its most recent numbers. They're still growing, and by a rapid clip. But why are analysts then so much more bullish where they cannot meet exactly or exceed a lot the expectations that are out there?
I think it's a digestion period. I mean, I think we go through the next 4 quarters, you're going to ultimately see, I think street numbers are going to come up 15-20% over the next few years. I think buy side definitely is very negative here. But as this all plays out, I think it's a stock that has a 2 in front of it. Because the AI revolution, remember, despite DeepSeek in terms of everything we saw there, with some of the Cinderella story, in terms of some of the fears, in terms of Nvidia on the chip side, there's one chip in the world fueling this, it's Nvidia.
This is the cheapest you have been able to buy Nvidia stock since October of 2022, before the launch of ChatGPT, which set off the AI era. So Nvidia in the AI era, as the leading player in AI, has never been a better bargain than it is today. The stock is, the company has 52% growth expectations for this year. It's now a 20 forward PE. How insane is this market right now, where they would rather buy Walmart at 30 some odd times earnings than this at 20? Walmart, if they're lucky, might be growing high single digits this year.
I'd say in 25 years doing this, I can count the times that have been almost the generational opportunities relative to what the stock's doing. That's where I think Nvidia is here.
I think this is a generational
I think because my view is we're going to be talking about Nvidia 4 trillion, 5 trillion over the coming years, despite near term, in terms of political export controls, everything else. That's where this is going. We're talking about 2 trillion of AI capex next 3 years. There's only one red phone that you could call to get those chips. It's
you want to laugh? You know what he should announce at GTC? How about a buyback? I think that would probably do more good than any technology.
Okay.
I mean, it's really, at this valuation, should be shrinking the float.
All right, so speaking of the valuation kind of construct, the paradigm that we're in right now, Joe, if you look at the way that it's been described on the forward basis and the valuation that's out there, there is a balancing that's happening right now about whether or not it is the fact that the analyst consensus, the forward earnings expectations for Nvidia are relatively off, or whether it's the price that you pay for those earnings that is relatively off. Do you think, though, that this is the equilibrium point at which the analysts are more correct when you project earnings out in the next year, and is the market valuing those forward projections properly?
So unfortunately, I have to give you an answer that is not succinct, and it is dependent upon the CapEx. And the question ultimately becomes, does the macro environment begin to arrest the capital spending on the part of those big players? And if in fact that unfolds over the coming year, then when you think about where Nvidia is, I think it has the potential to cheapen its valuation.
All right, Dan, if that is the case, the people who spend the most money with Nvidia are hyperscalers. These are the most ginormous balance sheets in the history of corporate world. What does the CapEx picture change by? How can it be affected by a hypothetical weakening macro backdrop?
Yeah, and Joe brings up an awesome point. I just tell you, come back from Asia, it's actually accelerating. In terms of, we see about 70% of that CapEx actually accelerating because it's an arms race. In other words, you have $325 billion that's going to be spent by big tech, $100 billion year over year. You don't even have the sovereigns. You don't have the rest of the world. This is something where actually the industry is underestimating CapEx, and I get the point in terms of worries about macro. I actually see more and more big tech accelerating in terms of, because as this arms race plays out, whether it's M&A from we see Alphabet and others, no one is pausing. They're actually accelerating. I think that's going to be the key. And I think that's something you're going to hear from Jensen.
Stock market news that grabs attention. In the last 3 years, Nvidia, a pioneer in the AI sector, has witnessed a remarkable 360% increase in its stock price. Exciting new advancements and challenges await Nvidia as it steers its stock in a new direction. In his recent interviews, Dan Ives revealed some intriguing news and expressed excitement about the future. Let's take a closer look at chips, artificial intelligence, and possible growth methods. Welcome back to Investing Tutorial, everyone. So, what implications does this have for Nvidia's stock? Let's explore that. But first, a big thank you to those of you who've stuck with us this far. Creating these videos takes significant effort and dedication, so if you're enjoying the content, please hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and share your thoughts on Nvidia stock in the comments. Your support truly helps us grow. Now, let's get back to the video.
CNBC and Nvidia yesterday, and Jensen Huang. Dan, please correct me if I'm wrong. It seemed like it was generally kind of an update on themes we mostly knew about and some pretty impressive numbers of how fast their chips are running. But was there anything additional?
Well, first of all, I think being at GTC in terms of our team there, I mean, the developer feedback, it's off the charts. So I think it all comes down to the use cases, and those are exploding. In terms of Jensen's keynote, I think it's really showing the holy grail is physical AI, autonomous robotics. Clearly talking about Rubin, some other sort of initiatives down the road, but look, they own AI when it comes to from a chip perspective. And I think that is sort of planting the flag, showing that, like, despite all the fears, some of the deep sea wounds and everything else, that's sort of Jensen out there, hearing from the godfather of AI himself saying, look, it's our world, everyone else paying rent.
Okay. All right. So NVIDIA then, in terms of market leadership, I mean, this thing trades at a PEG ratio below 1. So the valuation argument is not a bearish one, right?
Oh,
bullish, if anything.
I'd say it's cheap. I mean, relative, like when you look at it, if you believe, and all of our work shows that we're in year 3 of a 10-year build out, NVIDIA is cheap. I mean, I continue to think this is going to be a $4 trillion and eventually $5 trillion market cap, and that's our view. I think you got to take the noise out. I mean, you've talked about it over the years. I think in periods like this, you got to look at the winners and where they're trading.
The emergence of Nvidia in the AI scene has been nothing short of legendary, especially following the recent GTC conference, which propelled it to the forefront of technical innovation as corporations embrace AI solutions. Over the past several years, Nvidia's journey has witnessed growth hurdles and dreams realized. With its hardware serving as the foundation for training and operating large language models, Nvidia is a dependable company. However, when businesses consider diversification tactics and creating their own chip designs, obstacles arise that could undermine Nvidia's chip dominance. Investors should closely monitor the various stages of Nvidia's journey and wait for more clear indications before making any judgments. To stay informed about the latest developments from Nvidia and the ever-changing stock market, consider subscribing to our Investing Tutorial channel. We provide daily updates on significant market shifts and key catalysts, so hit that subscribe button to ensure you never miss crucial information. We'd love to hear your thoughts on Nvidia stock, so please share your opinions in the comments below. Now let's dive into today's video.
When it comes to AI, and I just think this is a stock that's going to have a 2 in front of it over the next 9-12 months, and that continues to be the buying opportunity. I think the street is sort of misinterpreting what I believe is just so bullish in terms of the long-term outlook.
Right now it has a 1 in front of it, and it's down by close to 8% for the month of March. And Dan, I think for many people out there, it still hasn't recovered from the DeepSeek revelation of the last 2 months or so. There seems to be some scarring here. What did the CEO do to counter some of those concerns in his address yesterday?
I mean, I think it's really what Jensen's talking about is that every large company, as they're looking, whether it's GM to across enterprises, as they're looking to build out, there's only one chip doing that, and it's NVIDIA. And I think that's something where I agree there is some still scarring from DeepSeek. I continue to view that ultimately that's bullish as the models get cheaper for the longer term sort of AI revolution thesis. But I think you're seeing CapEx accelerate. It's not diminishing. And I think that's something that we'll see as it plays out over earnings. But I think investors just need more and more confidence that there's not cracks, really in this AI thesis. And I think it's actually the opposite.
Dan, let's zoom out. We've been talking today, and John raised this earlier, that something else is going on. When you look beneath the surface of the S&P 500 or the NASDAQ, it really is the high flyers of last year that are leading the way lower and haven't been able to recover even when there's been positive news. We talk about Nvidia and yesterday's surprising reaction to the conference, but also Tesla and how those shares have absolutely been pummeled. Can you understand what's behind some of the shift away from big tech, and in particular, why certain names have gotten so disproportionately beaten up?
Yeah, I think, Lisa, there's three things. I think first, it's a perfect storm. I think it starts off one, you don't know the rules of the game, right? In terms of geopolitical tariffs, especially on the export controls, you're seeing a risk off, I think, globally on U.S. stocks. And I think that's something that we're seeing play out because investors are just worried that you're going to see some sort of cracks when it comes to export controls and tariffs related to chips. Two, I think you are seeing more play like the BABAs. You're seeing that China tech trade. You're starting to see more diversification, worrying about sort of the growth concerns in terms of the macro. And the third is, you said, look, you're not going to have true valuation support here. You need to show the actual growth. And I think as we get into the next few quarters, that's the aha moment. I think similar as we've seen with Nvidia and Palantir and others. But we're in this sort of gap here where every news is sort of going to be viewed negatively, and you just see such jitters. I think it's probably as nervous as I've seen tech investors, probably going back to some of the.
But despite these obstacles, Nvidia's foray into the robotics and automotive industries suggests a more varied future. With the emergence of self-driving cars and exponential growth projections in these fields, Nvidia's revenue streams may change, and the generative AI sector continues to be a pillar of the company's narrative gaming business. AR and VR offer unexplored opportunities for the company to investigate. Don't forget to share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. Your input helps create a more knowledgeable community where we can all learn and grow together in the world of investing. Stay up to date with the latest market trends, insights, and key updates by subscribing to Investing Tutorial. We're here to help you make smarter investment decisions and stay ahead of the curve.
Significant enough event to save these stocks from these declines that we've seen? And at bare minimum, I mean, the volatility has been head spinning.
It has. These things move plus or minus 10% on a given day, whether or not Jensen's shining a spotlight on the space or not. Taking a step back, though, and this is really the only corner of tech that Jensen Huang, arguably the most important CEO in the world, decided to take 2 hours out of his GTC conference this week and basically focus on, to put together a quantum day with 3 panels, including, folks from AWS and Microsoft Azure talking about the future of the space. I mean, and like Kate said, basically did a mea culpa for his January comment. So the fact that, this is still a microscopic space in terms of the size of these companies and their market caps in relation to a $3 trillion company like Nvidia. But the fact that he's focused on this, he's setting up a quantum research lab in Boston. This is an important area. And when he talks about what are we going to be talking about next year at our quantum day and what evidence are we going to see and all that kind of stuff, that's very, very bullish.
I mean, I hear you when you talk about the mea culpa. The cynic in me says, come on. You're telling me the same CEO who 2 months ago said of these stocks, well, this is way off into the future. Let's not get crazy excited. I'm paraphrasing, obviously. And it caused those stocks to absolutely fall out of bed. All of a sudden now at their event talks them up. And we should view this as some significant change in the timeline of quantum computing? I mean, come on.
Well, I guess, why do it? If his goal, Scott, was to crush these guys out of existence, why do it? Why invite them up? Why have them on? When I was chatting with you after those comments in January about it, I said it was a little curious to me because, as great as NVIDIA is, it still comes from a classical computing framework in terms of how it's developed. GPUs are obviously the most advanced version of that classical computing framework, but quantum computing is sort of the next step. So inherently, it's a threat to Nvidia. And that's why, keep your enemies closer. I think he's wanting to study the space. He's wanting to know kind of like, how can we be involved in this in case there is this massive shift as sort of like a next generation step for AI and GPUs down the road. So if he was just, wanting to kind of put them out of it.
As we consider NVIDIA's trajectory, one question remains. Is it time to take advantage of this opportunity and invest in NVIDIA's bright future, which is predicted to see development in a variety of sectors? Investing is more than just a numbers game. It's a story of measured risks and strategic actions. Due to NVIDIA's strategic placement in important industries, investors are expecting favorable returns. Potential is depicted by the stock wealth. What do you think about NVIDIA and its intriguing tech journey? Please share your opinions as we traverse the ever-changing stock and story landscape. Finally, click on the next movie on your screen to discover what companies like NVIDIA have been up to lately. I hope to see you there.